Welcome to the number 5 team in this deep dive series talking about the defending champions, the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I get it. Number 5. Listen, I'm not trolling. I'm not fucking with you. I'm sorry. The Bucks won the championship. They are the champions. Giannis has a Finals MVP, and I have nothing to take away from some of the most incredible Finals performances in recent history. They vanquished all who came before them and are the 2020-2021 undisputed NBA champions. Are we good? Giannis is one of the best players in the NBA. Chris Middleton is a mid-range assassin. Drew Holiday is clutch and a shutdown defender. Pat Connaughton has huge balls, and Brook Lopez is the better of the two brothers. Giannis is one of my favorite players and people on the planet. His genuine kindness and love for the game is something we can all aspire to. Are we good? The Bucks are the 5th best team in 2021. They were not more talented than the Suns. They were not better than the Nets. They were not better than the Clippers if Kawhi Leonard was healthy. They were not better than the Lakers when they were healthy. Sometimes you could even argue that the Bucks weren't better than the Hawks and they would have lost if Trae Young stayed healthy. As for the finals specifically, the Suns played so incredibly stupid and stopped running plays that worked, either being Monty Williams' fault or Chris Paul's ego is at fault. Maybe it's Devin Booker or any number of the three. The Suns were clearly dominating when they went up 2-0 in the finals. They stopped running intelligent plays like the Spain pick and roll or Devin Booker pistol action or horns. They never put up a wall against Giannis as he dropped 50 on DeAndre Ayton's ass, and Monty Williams did nothing. He didn't make a single adjustment against Giannis, just said Giannis versus Ayton, one-on-one, win or die. And then close out Chris, who'd been shown up the entirety of this finals run, disappeared. I know it's in no small part to Drew Holiday's defense, but he forgot how to play basketball while the Bucks consistently would help one pass away, giving wide open shots to the Suns that they just failed to make. The Nets went to 7 with only a healthy Kevin Durant, one half of a James Harden, and Kyrie Irving's ankles twisted in half. Even still, if Kevin Durant's big toe was 1 inch shorter, 1 centimeter behind the line, the Nets win the series. The Hawks fighting tooth and nail. Giannis himself got hurt, and if Trae didn't take one step back on a ref's ankle, my money is on a healthy Hawks team to go to the finals. The Suns played dumb, and they were only slightly dumber than some of the rotations and schemes laid out by Coach Bud. All that being said, the final result has the Bucks holding the Larry O'Brien trophy, and I will never take that away from them. They are your 2021 NBA champions. I just don't believe for a second that they're going to repeat. But let's talk about this team coming in at number 5, finished last year 46 and 26, 3rd in the Eastern Conference rankings, 2nd in the 2020 end of the regular season power rankings. And let's talk about some of these offseason moves. They did lose Bryn Forbes, the 3-point specialist who forgot how to shoot in the playoffs, so kind of a good riddance to you. Jeff Teague, one of the worst point guards in the game today, and PJ Tucker. He's actually going to be one of those huge little losses on a championship team. Realistically, you can find someone who can defend as well as he is, and you can find somebody that offers at least similar strengths that he does, sitting in the corner and doing nothing but spreading the floor. But PJ Tucker's just a tough, passionate dude. He's not going to cheat you out of any minutes on the court. He has no problem guarding the other team's best player regardless of their position, and he's going to give it to them night in and night out. But they did bring in Grayson Allen, a great pickup. George Hill, he is an upgrade of Jeff Teague or DJ Augustine, I guess. Rodney Hood, and Sandro Mamukelashvili. And moving on to the point guard ranking, where they're going to come in at 10th with Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is everything you wished Eric Bledsoe was a few years ago when Milwaukee signed him. He's a great defender, he's taller, and he has some point guard facilitation and much better 3-point shooting. They gave the whole farm for him though, like 10 first-round picks, which was a little surprising when it happened. When we saw those trades, it was like, oh, we'll do that for Anthony Davis. Oh, we'll do that for James Harden. Oh, we'll do that for Drew Holiday. But it paid off. Last year, he had a career year, a career high in 2-point percentage, 3-point percentage, true shooting, PER, all while still being an elite defender as evidenced by the finals. He's a great cutter without the basketball and a really streaky shooter. You take the high highs with the low lows. He had some awful playoff performances. In the finals, he shot 4 of 20 in Game 4, 4 of 19 in Game 6, 5 of 23 versus Brooklyn. Just really awful. He also struggled finishing at the rim all playoffs, 54%, which landed him in the 40th percentile, which was probably due to fatigue from his defense. But he also struggled at shooting, 30% from the 3-point line in the postseason. Again, mostly fatigue related, but still, you just got to shoot better. Of course, he did have elite defense, 108.1 defensive rating in the playoffs. The dude is just one of the best defenders in the game. He was all defense first or second team 3 of the last 4 years. And it's just difficult for guards to make Defensive Player of the Year considerations over big men. You look at the last few winners, it's Rudy Gobert, Giannis, Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green, Kawhi, Joakim Noah, Marcus Sol, Tyson Chandler. Not a guard comes in until Gary Payton in the 95-96 season. Safe to say his defense is underappreciated, especially by somebody like me. I did not see this coming. That said, Drew Holiday is more of a combo guard. He is able to play off-ball and on-ball, hence his only 6.1 assists per game rate. But he's able to punish defenders that went under screen, something that Eric Bledsoe could never do. Drew Holiday is an elite defender, and they're perfect number 3 of the big 3 of Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday. And the Bucks are lacking at point guard depth. They brought in George Hill. I guess he's an upgrade from Jason Teague and DJ Augustin. I guess he's just so frustratingly mediocre. Now they have 2 non-point guards on their roster, and I guess that's better than nothing. He's 35 years old this year. It feels like he's played on every single team in the NBA. The question going into this year is, can he give you at least 3 assists a game, offer you a little facilitation for the second unit? Can he get back to shooting 40% from the three-point line? Because he was really awful in Philly, especially in the playoffs where he never scored more than 4 points a game. I feel like the Bucks are another team that an Ish Smith signing could have been huge for, but you have George Hill again. And moving on to the point guard 3 ranking, I was struggling finding a person to put here, so I'm going to put Justin Robinson, the point guard, on their 2-way contract. He was undrafted rookie in 2019, been around the league for a few years on the Wizards and Thunder, hasn't really provided anything good, but he is a very fast guard, a little undersized, 6'1", 195 pounds, just a really bad shooter from 3 as evidenced by his 28.6 3-point shooting last season. He was okay in the G League bubble though last year, gave you 15 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 40% from the 3-point line. He's a pass-first guard, he has some pick-and-roll skill, and I do like the pickup. I expect him to beat out Tremont Waters at the very least since he's 3 inches taller and more of a facilitator than a scorer, and maybe, just maybe, he'll work his way into this rotation as the 3rd point guard. Moving on to the wing players, where we have Dante DiVincenzo coming in as the 26th ranked shooting guard in the league. He is going to be out for the start of the season, recovering from that ankle surgery. There's no real timetable, but I expect him to be back in the 1st or 2nd month of the regular season. As for Dante, he turned himself into a pretty decent shooter. He's a capable ball handler, and hypothetically, just a thought experiment, he might be their best point guard moving forward. He had the highest offensive rating, effective field goal percentage, and points per shot attempt when he played the point for those few minutes. He had 1 game running the point where he scored 24 points, had 7 rebounds, 9 assists. He was 1st in the league in assist percentage off drives. He just has a really low usage rate because of, the other 3 guys on this team. But he's a really nice defender, better off-ball defender than on. He's a huge gambler. He likes to go for steals instead of playing straight-up conservative, which nets him some easy buckets. He had 109.1 points allowed per 100 possessions, 8th among starting guards last year, and had a 4.5 offensive rebounding percentage, placing him in the 85th percentile last year. He's steadily improving his games in all aspects. Shooting, ball handling, playmaking, defending, just every stat across the board has gone up for him steadily over the last few years. He ranked in the 85th percentile for offensive and defensive rebounding each of the last 2 years, and it's just so nice to see him improving his 3-point shot. A lot of times, every rookie that comes into the NBA is like, oh, he can be good if he can shoot the 3. And then they never tend to do that. Dante DiVincenzo's has gone up. 26% his rookie year, 33.6% his sophomore year, and last year he had a career 37.9% from the 3-point line. It's almost upsetting that Pat Connaughton played so well in his absence. It minimized how important Dante DiVincenzo is to this team. Some small things right now is that he's a surprisingly bad finisher around the rim, shot really low percentile, has a fairly high turnover rate for not having the ball that much, and so far he's had 2 significant season-ending injuries in his young career, a bilateral heel bursitis in his rookie season, and then he tore a ligament in his ankle versus Miami last year. So there's question marks pertaining to his durability, but he is going into a contract year, so we're going to see how that all plays out. Moving on to the second member of the Big 3, Chris Middleton, the 6th ranked small forward in the NBA. This dude was clutch. He made so many incredible shots in the finals for Milwaukee. Giannis is the MVP, I get that. You get a 50-piece and a closeout, dominate like Shaq, blah, blah, blah. If Chris Middleton wasn't here and he didn't play as elite as he did, the Bucks don't win, period. Hell, they probably don't even get past the Nets or make it out of the 2nd round. Chris Middleton is the best shooter on the team and the guy you want the ball in his hands when you need a bucket. Last year, he had almost a 50-40-90 year, giving you 20 points a night, 6 rebounds, and 5.4 assists. Safe to say, Chris is as important to the championship run as Giannis was. Giannis is the superstar, the top 5 player in the game. He's the one who gets you there. but Chris Middleton puts you over the top. He took and made the most clutch shots, shot 15 of 33, 3 of 10 from 3, and 10 of 12 from the free throw line throughout the entire playoffs for clutch moments. Shot 75% in the finals in the clutch minutes. He is the Bucks closer. He's a mid-range assassin, but is a completely different player on the road. At home, Chris Middleton was plus 15.2 in the playoffs. On the road, minus 2.1. True shooting was 59.1% at home. On the road, 51.1. Basically every stat, shooting, turnovers, field goal percentages, went down when he went on the road. And like the old saying is, role players play better at home. Well, Chris Middleton is a super role player. Question is, can he find some consistency, some middle ground? Instead of being a really bad role player who either gives you 40 points a night in the finals or 11 points in a game, find something in between. And it's just really tough because his main shot is a contested off the dribble mid-range shot. He actually shot a little worse last year at 45% from mid-range instead of 52% in which he shot in 2019. He's a good passer and facilitator on this team, 5.4 assists per game. I expect him to get some all-NBA consideration this upcoming season with that finals performance under his belt. Moving on to the power forward ranking where they're going to come in at number 2. Now, this was one of the most incredible championship runs in recent history, probably closer to Dirk's 2011 run in overall impressiveness. That said, Dirk Nowitzki tore through a brutal Western Conference. In the first round, he beat a prime LaMarcus Aldridge, Wesley Matthews, who gave you 15 a night, Gerald Wallace when he was still good, Andre Miller, Nicholas Batum, and Brandon Roy was still in the league, one of the best players who just got battered by injuries. Then he went through the Kobe Bryant Lakers, Pau Gasol, Lamar Odom, Andrew Bynum. These dudes were just coming off of championship runs. Then he went through the Baby Thunder, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Naz Mohammed, Thabo Sefolosha, Nick Collison, the GOAT. And then he went through none other than the Heatles, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. So while the championship run was very impressive from Giannis, it's not quite at the Dirk level. He went through the Heat, 4-0 swept. He went through the Nets without Kyrie Irving with half of a James Harden and was 1 inch away from losing it all. Then he went through the Hawks, who also lost Trae Young. Then he went through the Suns, who just collapsed. So all that being said, I guess I am a Giannis hater. I said he'd never win a championship until he learned how to shoot. And then he went out and proved me wrong. I'm an asshole. Of course, I didn't expect the entire NBA to sprain their ankle and his opponent to be the choke artist formerly known as Chris Paul. But Giannis is just incredible. He's a freak. Top 5 player in the game right now. He has Space Jam arms. He works harder than anyone else when there's basketball on the court. The dude is like drenched in sweat 2.5 minutes into a preseason game. This dude only has one setting, and that's playing his fucking ass off. He's such a good rebounder, such an elite defender. Great on the break, really good passer, unstoppable finisher. I really liked when he stopped shooting and ball handling and he turned himself into the roll man in the finals. The gravity he pulls with his skill and his athleticism forced defenses to respect him even without the ball, and it was huge when they ran him as the roll guy and Chris Middleton as the ball handler. Every time he would shoot, either from the free throw line or the three-point line, I would just say, oh no, because he is such a bad shooter. He has no touch. When he gets the ball, when he tries to post up or shoot a three-pointer, it gets pretty ugly. He'll try to force his way in through brute strength. It's ugly, it's inefficient, and it's inconsistent. Just from recent tape in the preseason, though, he cut about 5 dribbles from his free throw ritual and took about half the time he did in the preseason, which was his really big storyline. So it's good to see that maybe he's going to have a little more rhythm, maybe a little less pressure taking fucking 20 seconds to take a shot. Just, can he ever have a post game? Can he ever shoot? He's still suffering a little bit from that knee injury he suffered, and there is signs of him having a jump shot, but just like Ben Simmons, just like Rajon Rondo, I'll believe you when I see it. I'm all on board of Giannis learning to shoot. Back when Giannis was a rookie, he had really solid normal jump shooting form, and then MVP Giannis looks like Dwight Howard out there. I have no clue what the Milwaukee quote-unquote shot doctor did to him, but I'd love the idea of Giannis shooting on top of his unreal defense, athleticism, ball handling, going into age 27 season already with 2 MVPs and a finals MVP under his belt. If he could learn how to shoot the ball too, go, because his shot is literally unblockable. His release point is like 16 feet in the air. Let's move on to this center position where they're going to come in at 26 with Brook Lopez, who's just a huge human being. He can shoot the three. He shot 34% last year, but he's just not a great three-point shooter. He does shoot at a pretty high volume, so you have to at least respect it. He's just so much better in the post. He has nice touch around the rim and can back down smaller players. It just clashes a bit in those Giannis lineups. I'm a huge fan of Giannis playing the five, but then where does that leave Brook Lopez? As for Brook, his pick and roll defense is highly exploitable. His drop defense on the pick and roll is easy money to mid-range snipers or floater shots, and he can be goofy at times. He doesn't have the greatest body control because he's such a big dude, but he's a decent rim protector, a good rebounder. His rebound numbers are a little bit down, only 5 last year, most notably because he's posted up at the three-point line on offense, and there's already so many great rebounders on the team snatching it away from him. But some of y'all forgot, Brook Lopez was an all-star back in his Brooklyn days. He doesn't get a lot of paint touches because of Giannis, but he has the capacity to be a double-double guy night in, night out. He came up huge in the Hawks series after Giannis went down, including a 33-point Game 5. He's just freakily inconsistent, and his touches are freakily inconsistent. A lot of times, because of just the way the Bucks offense is created, they were much more inefficient when he was on the floor. But Coach Bud loves two guys more than anything else in the world, and that's playing Pat Connaughton and paying Brook Lopez. They're going to get minutes no matter what happens. But for right now, with the way Giannis plays, Brook Lopez is more so a guy you want to play based on matchups than a night in, night out starter. Moving on to Bobby Portis, also known as Bobby Portis. What a fucking legend. The city of Milwaukee completely embraced this dude, and you love to see a player who struggled to find his game, struggled to play at a high level, go to a new team, and find a home where they embrace him. He had a career year last year, was unreal from the three, shot 47.1%, third best in the NBA, just lethal. He was a good rebounder, 7.1 in limited minutes, and he's a solid defender. He is still a little undersized to be a 5, not quite a switch everything small ball 5, but his defense is improving and he's much more nimble than Brook is. He's really their only center depth right now, so will be playing a huge role for this team this upcoming season. But Bobby's just a competitive, intense dude who won over the city of Milwaukee. He did struggle in the Nets series though, so he's not always going to be a night in, night out bucket. Of course, then he was also huge in Game 5 with 22 points alongside Brook Lopez against the Hawks, then scored 16 in the closeout Game 6. He's just a spark plug off the bench, and you love to have him on your team. Moving on to the final center position, and just like the point guard, they're also lacking at this as well. On the two-way deal is the best center that I've seen so far, Sandro Mamukelashvili. He's a 4-year guy out of Seton Hall, drafted in the 54th pick, and he played really well for them in the Summer League in the preseason. Summer League, he got you 11 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.5 steals a game, and had 4 offensive rebounds a game, which was clearly a focus for the Bucks. They obviously like that. And so far, I like his game. He's a big guy. He plays hard. He can stretch the floor a little bit. Not the best three-point shooter, but he has some ball handling, some passing skill. Obviously, he needs some work. He's a rookie, but he's very impressive for a 54th pick nonetheless. He can play in the post. He is a good rebounder. He has nice touch, and he might be the backup center if anything happens to the other two. He's definitely earned that level of respect. Had a really nice 20-point, 11 rebound game versus the Nets. And moving on to the bench ranking where they're going to come in at 20th, Pat Connaughton. This dude is fearless. This dude came up huge for them, shot decent for them in the finals, but was real clutch were those offensive rebounds he had. He didn't always get the clutch baskets, but he did make the clutch plays. He played so valiantly, overshadowed Bryn Forbes, and knocked his ass out of Milwaukee, even though Bryn Forbes was a better shooter because of his ability to play on both sides of the ball. He's a decent defender, much more conservative than the way Dante DiVincenzo plays. This means less steals, less deflections, but less misses in open driving lanes if he doesn't get the steal. He was a league average shooter last season at 37%, which was really good for him. Good to see that percentage go up. And he shot 39% in the playoffs. I'm just so happy for him because he was nearly unplayable in the bubble 2 seasons ago versus the Heat. I'm glad he won over the city of Milwaukee. Everybody said, oh, this guy isn't deserving of a contract. Get him out of here. And now he was such a pivotal key player to their championship run, especially with Dante's injury. He had a career year from 3. He turned himself into a reliable catch-and-shoot shooter. He's about as good of a 3-and-D guy you'll find out there before getting into that level of star player or superstar. He had so many good hustle plays in the playoffs, had the 3rd highest made three-pointers in the finals, and so many clutch offensive rebounds. This dude is so important to their championship run, and I'm glad to see he won over the hearts and minds of the Milwaukee fans. Moving on to Grayson Allen. And I have to talk about this guy. I know he's gotten a lot of flack from his Duke days when he was throwing temper tantrums on the court. I get it. But he was a kid, man. He He was like 20 years old. If you look back in your life, can you really say, oh, when I was 20 years old, with hundreds of thousands of people cheering me on, with cameras all over me while I'm playing the game of basketball, I would have never done something stupid or made a mistake or thrown a tantrum? I can think of personally 15 stupid things I've done in one night when I was 20. The flack that this dude got is ridiculous. It's not even a second chance, like he beat his wife and he's now apologizing. This is a first chance that the kid had. Give him the chance at maturity. He's been completely incident free the past few years, but every time you talk about Grayson Allen to people who don't actually watch the game, but they read the headlines, they're on r/NBA or something, they go, oh, Grayson Allen, what a fucking douchebag. He gives back to the community. He has charities. He's been the consummate professional when he came in the league. Just because of some dumb things he did as a kid, we're going to all of a sudden never let this guy live it down again? Come on, people. But as for Grayson Allen, the player, he's a sharp shooter. He does have a little playmaking ability, and he's actually surprisingly athletic as seen by some of the blocks he's made in the preseason. He just won't create much. 91% of his three-point shots last year were assisted, but he's much more reliable from three than Dante DiVincenzo or Pat Connaughton is. He also has some floater game when he does the pump fake and drive by the closeout defender. It was just such a good pickup for next to nothing. Apparently they traded him for this guy named Sam Merrill. Never heard of that name before. I think it's fake news. But it was a really good trade. I have no idea what the Grizzlies were doing other than, oh, we don't want to pay this guy. He's going into a contract year, lols. I even think there's an argument to be made that Grayson Allen is a better player than Desmond Bane given his credentials and proven worth in the playoffs and in clutch moments. But he's going to fit right in as a shooter off this bench. Not quite the same rebounder or defender as Pat and Dante, but it's definitely an upgrade from, say, Bryn Forbes. He did rank in the 89th percentile of steals plus blocks plus deflections per 75. He just has a smaller wingspan, is a smaller build. He needs to fit into that role of being a shooter and kind of a smaller pest on offense, buzz around like a bee, if you will. But he is going into a contract year, as is Dante DiVincenzo, and I think they're going to be in direct competition for who's going to get the money. He is 2 years older since he played all 4 years at Duke, and it's going to be interesting to see how this breaks out in the next season. Basically, Grayson Allen is a better shooter, but the other guys are better defenders. Moving on to Jordan Nwora, who's also just been a breakout player in the Summer League. Such a smooth scorer, showed a little bit of facilitating playmaking too. A lot of people, including myself, are predicting a breakout year for him. Now, is he going to be most improved? No, but probably better than his 5.7 points a game he got you last season. He's going to make a roster spot for sure from what he's shown this offseason. He might even be able to be the combo guard fill-in until Dante comes back. He's just not particularly fast or athletic, but he has a really smooth shot and glides through the paint, a little bit like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, it's really tough to say what he was giving you last season. He only played 274 minutes, but he shot 40% from 3, 28 of 62, so a really low volume. He didn't offer you much passing. He's not a great defender. Hell, he's not even a great catch-and-shoot shooter. He's more of an ISO off-the-ball shooter, but we'll see how this will impact his minutes. He's definitely going to give you something in the second unit. On to their PJ Tucker replacement options. Number 1, Giannis's brother, Thanasis. Let's not beat around the bush. He's here because of nepotism. He usually plays the last 60 seconds of the first, second, and third quarters, gives the Bucks a jolt of energy to close out the quarter strong, something that almost every coach emphasizes. He sprints up and down the floor every possession, jumps as high as he possibly can for every rebound, contests every shot, and dives after every loose ball. He's just not very good other than that. He's so bad, but he plays with so much energy that you love to watch him. All that being said, he does have the physical tool set to be a potential PJ Tucker fill-in. He's just not, good enough yet. The second option is Rodney Hood. I didn't realize he was still in the league. At the very least, he'll be good guard depth while Dante recovers and maybe a PJ Tucker fill-in. He just had the injury bug for the last few seasons. So right now he's on a prove-it 1-year veterans minimum deal. Hopefully he can stay healthy, give you 10 plus a night off the bench. He put together some really nice stats a few seasons ago in Portland before tearing his Achilles, and then he was really awful last year, but he was dealing with a fractured hand and an injured hip last season. He's a career 37% three-point shooter and has the tangibles. Standing at 6'8" with a 6'8" wingspan, the dude physically can be an NBA player, just does he have the skill and can he stay healthy? Moving on to their third option, Semi Ojeleye, another Boston reject alongside Tremont Waters. He's a little worse at defense than Tucker and is a little better at offense. In theory, he might crack the second unit right now if he shows defensive tenacity. He's just a big bodybuilding dude, 6'6", 240 pounds. He looks like an offensive lineman. He did shoot 37% from 3 last year, the league average. So can he hit that when Giannis or Drew kick it out to him and he's wide open? That's really going to be the make or break for if he makes the roster. He had a horribly low block rate. I read somewhere he had the lowest block rate next to Isaiah Thomas. He has a really low foul rate as well. He doesn't gamble on defense. He doesn't do anything but stand there. He's a big, strong dude that doesn't let somebody back him down. His role is to get in the way of those guys who try to bully you like a Julius Randle. Basically, his best move is to shut down Giannis, ironically. He's basically league average 3 and not very good D, but he is very strong, so there's that. Lastly is Georgios Kalaitzakis, and what the fuck are these names that they have on this roster? Good lord. The final pick of this last draft, Mr. Irrelevant. He's 6'8", has some point forward potential. He's just a really bad shooter. Worse yet, he has a really low volume of shooting. He is a good passer, though. We've seen some nice passing in the preseason. Maybe he'll be the point guard 3 or second unit point guard ball handler. Who knows? But he is from Greece. He's the next Greek freak, and I fully expect him to go down into the G League to develop for a while. And there is one roster spot open for all of these exhibition contracts, and they keep changing by the day. I think Elijah Bryant, they waived and then re-signed him 2 days later. Then just yesterday, they signed Rajon Tucker. My money is that Johnny O'Brien's going to get the final roster spot to give him a little depth at the 4 or 5, or they'll find a way to call up Mamu from the two-way contract to sign him to the roster and then put someone else in the two-way, but I fully expect them to go with a big guy in this final spot. As for the players, Elijah Bryant, he kind of looks and plays like a poor man's Jordan Nwora. He's made some passes, made some shots in the preseason. I just don't really expect him to make the roster. They're so deep at this guard, wing, 3-and-D position with Jordan Nwora, Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen, Dante DiVincenzo, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, Rodney Hood, George Hill, Semi Ojeleye. Basically everybody on the team except Brook Lopez fits this role. Tremont Waters, the other Celtics reject, is here. He's so short. He's 5'10". He doesn't have a great handle. He's a high turnover guy. His per 36 is like 4 turnovers a game, but he is a decent shooter. He always has been. It's just hard to make the final cut when you're 5'10" and don't offer transcendental athleticism. Johnny O'Brien is here as well. He's been around the block, started his career in Milwaukee and is now back in Milwaukee. One of those tweener 4-5 players, skill set of a 5, size of a 4. He can shoot the 3 though to some extent, which is really the only reason why I have him over Javin DeLaurier. Javin is an undrafted kid from last year's draft, but he has hops. He's big enough at 6'10". He's just been largely unimpressive at Duke, was really unimpressive in the G League, but he's a decent rebounder. Okay. Rajon Tucker, the guy who they just signed last night, he's a defensive combo guard who can't really facilitate and is a bad shooter. He's also a little old at 24, and the Sixers, they just gave up on him. There's not a whole lot here, but I guess because he played well for the Bucks G League team back in 2019 before COVID, he's coming back because of familiarity. I don't know. Then on the two-way contracts, we already talked about Sandro Mamukelashvili and Justin Robinson. Now let's talk about this front office where they're going to come in at 16th. And honestly, this is one of the reasons why they're coming in so low. Coach Budenholzer was on the hot seat last year. He was ready to be fired if they didn't make it to the finals. They may have doomed their coaching potential down the road because Coach Bud is clearly not the answer. Year in and year out, he was a disappointment. And I would say they lucked out more than anything in falling into this championship as well as having, Giannis. I was also really upset with the GM, John Horst. They gave up their second round pick, but it was pick 31 in this year's draft, so practically a late first. And I know the return picks were part of the package to bring in Grayson Allen, but second round picks can literally be bought for cash in the NBA, and this draft class was so deep. They still had players available like Jeremiah Robinson Earl, great big man, Miles McBride, good guard that you need, Jared Butler, another guard, Ayodu Sumnu, all these players were available for them at 31. Now, Mamu does look good so far, so you can't call this draft class a bust, as well as the fact that they won the championship, so they weren't going to have a good pick regardless. But it's just hard to have belief in this front office and this coach. I think Budenholzer made like one adjustment throughout the entire finals. And I loved hearing Coach Nick try to break down these cases in his videos. He was basically frustrated. Both teams were doing really bad, making really dumb decisions, and it felt like who was going to be the dumber team. Moving on to the season projections where they're projected to win 54.5 wins next year, 9-1 championship odds, and probably in competition for the conference finals in the East. The big thing is, are they better than a healthy Nets squad? And even without Kyrie Irving, I'm sorry, they're not. They're also going to have a huge hole now that the big wing stopper PJ Tucker is gone. I don't think Semi Ojeleye, Rodney Hood, or Thanasis is the answer. They're coming off of a really short offseason, a little longer than the Lakers had, but not that much more. They're going to be exhausted, and do they have what it takes to get the other team's best? Because they are the champions. They are the ones who are going to be the target night in and night out. No longer are they the underdogs. No longer are they the nice story. This is the championship Milwaukee Bucks. And that is the number 5 team in this deep dive series. I know a little controversial, but that's just the way it is. Things will never be the same. Let me know what you think, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I'll catch you in the next one where we unveil team number 4.